Welcome to SciShow Tangents, the lightly competitive knowledge showcase starring some of the geniuses that make the YouTube series SciShow happen. This week, joining me, as always, are Stefan G.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
Good. What's your tagline?
Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
And we're also joined by Samuel Schultz.
Hello.
Isn't it Samuel?
Uh-huh.
Officially on the birth certificate?
Yeah.
You thought about it for a second.
Well, my brother is just Will and not William or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it does get a little, I wonder why my parents did that to me.
You haven't asked them.
I have. They didn't have an answer.
What's your tagline?
A little boy from outer space.
We also got Sari Riley up in the house. Sari, what's your tagline?
I need a toaster.
And I'm Hank Green. I am doing well. And my tagline is honey bunches of oats. So if you don't know about SciShow Tangents, it's a time when we get together, the four of us. We try to amaze each other. We try to one-up each other with better and better science facts for each other's delight. We're playing for glory, but we're also keeping score in the form of Hank Bucks. And at the end, there will be a winner. And that winner will get nothing. We do everything we can to stay on topic here at SciShow Tangents, but it is called SciShow Tangent. So if we go on a tangent, the rest of the crew gets to decide whether the tangent was worthwhile, and if it wasn't, then you have to give up a Hank Buck. Now, as always, we're going to introduce this week's topic with the traditional science poem from Sam.
From Mickey Mouse to Chuck E. Cheese, humans seem to love a man-sized cartoon mouse or rat wearing shoes and gloves. But in the distant mists of time, there have really been super giant rodents that weighed more than 15 men. With foot-long teeth and deadly jaws, they probably wouldn't be the greatest mascots for a park or a pizza place MC. And you wouldn't even need to travel to a distant era to find a 4-foot flying squirrel or a dog-sized capybara. Smaller and cuter though they are, they still aren't fit for showbiz because they'd rather poop and chew than entertain your kids.
You did it.
Nice. I did it.
It was great. Hank Buck for Sam.
Thank you.
I loved it. And I think we may hear about some of these giant rodents in today's SciShow Tangents episode on giant rodents, which you probably already knew because of the title of the episode.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a
Yeah.
flaw in the system, but
I guess we turn to Sari to tell us what a giant rodent is.
This is one of the hardest definitions because it's so nebulous.
Right, of rodent and giant?
Rodent, not so much. Rodent, we know. It's a order in mammals called Rodentia. And I think the thing that sets them apart the most is the way that their teeth grow and the way that they're positioned in their jaw. So they have incisors in the front that continuously grow their entire lives. And the only way they get worn down is by biting and chewing, which is why it's so important for all rodents to have stuff to gnaw on. And that's like your mice, your rats, guinea pigs, chinchillas, but also bigger ones like beavers and porcupines and capybaras.
wait, are squirrels one of them?
I think squirrels are rodents.
I hope so. It was in my poem.
I think so. Rabbits are not.
Right, because they're the lagomorphs.
What's the difference there? Their teeth don't grow like that?
Rabbit teeth do grow continuously throughout their whole life, but their jaw structure is somehow different. So
Hanging out somewhere nearby.
yeah.
Where does it get giant? I feel like a beaver is a giant rodent. Like if somebody came on this show, we're talking about giant rodents, and you talked about a beaver, I'd be right here with you.
Yeah, that's where my head was in this one.
So the three biggest kinds of rodents are beavers, porcupines, capybaras. And those get into, I think, 30 plus pounds starting with beavers. And so those seem big. And then there are big versions of mice and rats that to biologists are giant, where they're like, compared to a normal mouse, this one's giant.
Yeah.
And you see it and you're like, that is a small animal.
Yeah, I read about a giant one that was twice as big as a normal mouse, which is so tiny. To me, giant rodent seems weird, I guess because the word rodent is like a gross word, kind of. It's like for a gross little scurrying thing. So then when you see like a beaver, you're not like, ooh, a rodent.
Right.
So maybe that's
Yeah,
what the
and then
line
you
is.
see
Once
like
they're not
a-
gross anymore.
Yeah, you
then,
see a capybara and you're like, that's just a cute animal.
yeah, I'm going to give it a little pat on the head.
So I guess we've got like roughly giant is, when we're like, oh, that's a rodent? That's
Yeah.
awful big.
It's not a very scientific
No.
topic. But
And then like the prehistoric
yes.
Right.
ones.
Yeah.
are-
Then that's actually giant.
Yes.
Which we
Yeah.
can't talk about too much before my fact off.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
But before we get to that, it's time for everybody's favorite time. where Sari has prepared 3 science facts for our education and enjoyment, but only one of those facts is true. The other panelists have to figure it out, either by deduction or wild guess. And if we get it right, we get a Hank buck. If we don't, then Sari does. Sari, what are your 3 facts?
Hundreds of years ago, the Laotian giant flying squirrel was a messenger animal in Southeast Asia for military, medical, and domestic deliveries. They have a lot of endurance and seem to use smell and the Earth's magnetic field to navigate over long distances in the brush, similar to homing pigeons.
I want that one.
Yeah.
Fact number 2, African giant pouched rats are rodents but aren't technically rats. They have a keen sense of smell and are trained to identify tuberculosis and spit and mucus samples. Microscope tests that look for bacteria aren't always accurate, so these rodents have saved lives. Or fact number 3, in the 1940s, U.S. military researchers worked on Project Timber. They were studying beavers' extremely strong teeth and wanted to train them to gnaw down wooden building supports instead of trees. Super sneaky. But the project was canceled because it wasn't destructive enough.
Oh, no.
I don't believe that anyone has ever called a beaver not destructive enough. All right, so I got to go straight to African giant pouch rats, which you said they weren't rats. Do they have a giant pouch?
I think it refers to their cheek pouches.
Oh, okay. All right. So they are rodents.
They are rodents,
Okay,
yeah.
so your 3 facts are potentially useful rodents.
Yeah, 3 potentially useful rodents.
It
A
could be
flying squirrel messenger, sniffing rat, disease sniffing rat,
Mm-hmm.
or beaver weapons.
Weaponized beaver.
Yeah.
So one thing I know about America is we've tried to weaponize everything.
Mhm.
So if we haven't weaponized beavers, I would be surprised, honestly.
Mhm.
So I'm leaning strongly toward that.
But we've met a beaver, and they seem very slow and lazy. I wouldn't look at a beaver and think that thing could chew through supports quickly. Wouldn't that be what they
don't
would need to do?
necessarily have to chew through supports quickly. Like they could just come back, but like they can chew down a tree, no problem. They do it all the time.
Just throw a bunch of beavers in the basement of the building.
Okay. I feel like for
Eventually.
a lot of reasons that wouldn't work because they're like a family unit. They seem very temperamental. I guess it didn't work, so.
It's true.
There we
I do
go.
agree that like you can't like throw a beaver someplace and be
Yeah.
like chew. They tend to want to settle down first before
Right.
they get to the really active chewing. So I'm still feeling strong on Project Timber because I figure we've tried.
Yeah,
At the
okay.
very least, we've tried. Giant flying squirrel. I obviously I want it to be true.
I know that they're real.
They were in your poem.
They were in my poem, but all I read about them was that they are real.
Yeah,
So I don't know anything
I
else
don't know
about
if they were used for anything.
Yeah.
By
And they're
humans.
currently living. These 4-meter flying squirrels.
That's the thing. They have only found 10 of them, according to my research,
Oh, no.
and they were all dead. They pop up in meat markets sometimes.
Oh, I see.
This was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
all right.
As
What
part
is
of
that?
that.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, damn. Then I guess I don't know. I'm leaning towards the middle one.
Giant pouch rat can smell TB.
Was it TB and cancer or just TB?
Just tuberculosis.
Oh, boy. Maybe not then. I don't know.
What do you mean? I feel
don't
like you
know.
could smell tuberculosis.
You think so?
Yeah.
Sure, it's an infection in your respiratory system, which means it
Oh.
would come out in your breath. I feel like it's easier to smell TB than cancer.
I'm going to go with that one.
You're
Number
gonna
2.
go with okay.
I have
good.
to stress that we cannot all pick the same answer.
I
again.
agree with you because and it doesn't matter because I'm going for Project Timber.
Okay, perfect.
Weaponized beavers.
Okay.
I definitely read about tuberculosis smelling rats, but I don't know if it was that
rat?
species of rats, but I'm going to go with number 2.
I think that Sari wouldn't. I think Sari would not do it with just a different species.
I am also betting on that.
yeah.
What if it's a different disease, though? Because I feel like I've heard of cancer smelling rats.
Well, we're gonna find out
Okay.
right now.
Number 2 is correct.
I wanted weaponized beavers. And I
Yeah,
didn't
that would've
get
been
them.
great.
So, are there any seeds of truth in weaponized beavers that can make be some kind of salve to my ego?
Nope. They do have extremely strong teeth, and I thought that was cool. They have iron
Yeah.
molecules as
Yeah.
part of it, so they're
Oh.
kind of orangey and just
Oh.
like got really strong enamel. And so I just wanted to see if I could make up a fake military project convincingly. So I
You
tried.
did.
And the flying squirrel thing, I just also found that it existed and then
Uh-huh.
made up everything else. I
They're
thought
like
it.
4 feet tall.
Yeah,
That's
they're
crazy.
huge.
But there's only we don't know if there's any alive.
I think there are. They're just not. They're not easy to find. I don't think
I
they've
feel
ever.
like a giant squirrel would be easy to find.
Maybe nobody's really put a lot of time into it.
I
but-
think it's very easy to find the little ones.
That's true.
And then we've also got actual TB sniffing rats.
Mm-hmm. And they're very cute and very good.
Oh.
They're called hero rats. So an organization has discovered that these African giant pouched rats can be trained over the course of 9 months to sniff various things. And so they've trained some of them to sniff for landmines beneath the surface of the ground.
Oh,
and so they
wow.
wear little harnesses and walk around and sniff for explosives.
And then they find it and then tell people about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have a handler, I
Yeah,
think. who
they're not
walks
heavy
around
enough
with
to
them.
blow up, right?
Yeah, they're not heavy enough, so they can walk over the ground, which is why it's way safer to train them instead of having humans walk around and find them. But they have also been used to sniff for tuberculosis, which is a very serious disease, especially in some African nations, like where
These good rats are?
these good rats are. Yeah. And in a lot of these countries, tuberculosis is a really high cause of death, but they don't have the technology needed to screen for it really easily. Like in our hospitals, we have, machines that can analyze molecules very easily, but the main test that a lot of these hospitals are using is a microscope test where they take a sample of sputum, which I think is a very weird word.
It's a very
not
bad
great.
word.
Not great.
It's like the spit and mucus that
Sure.
tuberculosis patients hack up. And so they look at it under the microscope and are looking for bacteria in it, any sign of it. And the problem is especially if someone is HIV positive with a immune system that's compromised, not very many bacteria can make them extremely sick. And so it's really hard to find the bacteria in these microscope tests. But rats can be trained to sniff it out and do it faster, more efficiently, and go through a bunch more samples than humans with pretty high accuracy.
Wow.
And so they
So
just...
you're intentionally putting rats in healthcare centers. and
Yeah.
hospitals. That's
Yeah.
usually the opposite of how it works.
They're using rats to actually diagnose people, and they just like stick a rat in a container and then give them a bunch of samples to sniff. And usually, from what I read, they like scratch the ground, which seems kind of cute if they smell disease. And then the researchers just like check a bunch of boxes. And usually that's not like a confirmed diagnosis. It just tells the doctors that they should go back and check that sample again manually. But they've increased diagnoses by a lot. In the first 16 months that they did this program of rat sniffing samples from patients, they tested about 12,500 patients. 1,700 had been found positive already at health clinics using the microscopes. But then the rats detected another 764 patients on top of that were confirmed to have tuberculosis.
Oh.
So they're like genuinely saving people.
That's great. And you're not being weaponized at all. You're being opposite of that.
How big are they, though?
They get up to about a meter long.
Oh, that's big. Does that include a tail?
Yes, including the tail.
Okay. I'm more on board now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's time for us to talk about even gianter rats or I guess rodents. And we're going to do that right after we hear about some advertising. Welcome back. Here's our totals in terms of our Hank Buck scores. Sarah, you got 1. Hank, that's me. You got 0. Sam, coming in first with 2. And Stefan has 1.
Forgot about the poem, Hank Buck. I thought we were all tied.
No, you're all losing except for Sam. But it's my chance to come back. And Stefan, you too. You
I could
claw
win.
your way back. You could win even. Because it's time for the Fact Off, where 2 panelists have brought in science facts to present to the others in an attempt to blow your minds. Stefan and I have brought in facts this week. Sari and Sam have the opportunity to award the Hank Buck to the fact they like the most. And the person who goes first is the person who is sneakiest. Like rodents are sneaky. Masters of stealth. Know that they're there.
Sneaky?
They are. I once had a mouse on my face.
Oh, God.
I think you've talked about this
I have,
on the podcast.
Yeah, I woke up, I was in the forest, and I woke up with a mouse on my face, and I grabbed it and I threw it.
Was the mascot costume that you wore a rodent?
No, I was Willie the Wildcat.
Oh, okay. I was a beaver, so I was technically a rodent.
Oh, Sari not only has hung out with rodents, she's been one.
Tim the Beaver
But I
For,
think
like,
I
your
have
high
to,
school?
we have to leave it up
for college.
Oh,
to
cool.
you guys. Oh, wow, you were a mascot in college.
That's very judgmental.
That's what I put those days behind me in high school. Tell me, you guys have to tell us which you think is who's sneakier. There's three people in the room, so you guys all have to vote. Who's sneakier, Stefan or Hank?
Oh no, this is a trick. Who's sneakier?
Do I get to vote?
I feel like
No.
Stefan would try to be sneakier to avoid people.
Maybe has more experience because he likes people less than I do.
Yes,
But-
I feel like head down will just go.
Yeah.
But maybe Hank has more like actual tested methods for escaping and sneaking past people than Stefan does.
It's true.
That
Sometimes
is
I
true.
have to sneak
I
past
bet
people.
Hank is sneakier.
It's okay, Sam thinks I'm sneakier.
I will buy that logic. I feel like Hank is more professionally sneaky than Stefan is.
Yes.
Stefan is a casual sneaker, an amateur sneak. And
Definitely.
Hank is a professional sneak.
Yeah.
I cannot believe this.
That you think
You wanna be
wanted to be
sneakier?
sneaky?
I can't. I'm just being described as a casual sneak, an amateur. Yeah, I don't like this at all.
All right, well, I get to go first anyway. This was a long process. So here is my fact. As I believe we may have discussed on tangents briefly before, Pablo Escobar, the drug lord, had hippos. And I have written down here, weird flex, but okay. And since then, the hippos have moved beyond their original lake enclosure where they were, and they have gone into wild ecosystems. There's a debate raging right now about whether these hippos might actually be good for the environment as an invasive species because they're filling a niche once occupied by now extinct megafauna. For example, the world's largest ever known rodent, Josephoartigacia Monisci,
Nailed it.
which probably weighed upwards of 2,000 pounds and looked very similar to guinea pigs, but 2,000 pounds though. Hippos clock in at around 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. So when people say that capybaras are giant guinea pigs, these things make that sound silly because they are 10 times bigger than a capybara. So some ways that hippos may help increase biodiversity, and thus these megafauna rodents may have once done: consuming overgrowths of aquatic grasses, reforming the landscape with their giant bodies and creating channels through mats of grass, and creating more variable levels of nutrients and oxygen in a single river system. So Josephoartigas, I've got to give these things a better name, went extinct around 4 million years ago, likely because of new species invading after North and South America first became connected. But these new hippos, they got no predator that can stand up to them except maybe people. So we will see how this turns out.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Pablo Escobar had hippos.
Yes.
And then they just let him go?
They got out.
Uh-oh.
They're real big. I don't actually get the impression that they were enclosed. They put, and I did not figure this out how they got out, but I think that they just built a man-made lake and they were put the hippos there. They won't be able to go very far because there's no nearby stuff for them to go to, but then they figured it out.
Oh.
But maybe there were some kind of enclosures, but they're out now.
Did they have children?
Oh yeah.
Whoa, okay.
So
That's
they're
really
out.
cool.
They are officially an invasive species. They
Okay.
probably could kill them if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And they are looking into how to sterilize them because people nearby don't like the idea of the hippos getting killed because they like the hippos.
Oh.
These must be some friendly hippos.
I don't think they are. I think that they have some kind of attachment to them that probably once people start dying of hippo, maybe they will lose. And this wasn't the only megafauna that may have been in a similar niche to a hippo in South America. Most of them went extinct when humans arrived, but there was a earlier extinction of megafauna in South America when big cats arrived from North America.
Can you expand on the idea of reforming the landscape with their giant bodies? 'Cause
Yeah,
That
so-
seems weird and cool.
Yeah, so they actually can change how rivers flow by when they walk around, they kill grasses, they break apart grass mats, they the more that they move through an area, they create channels that water can flow through. And so they become what I think in ecosystem ecology is called ecosystem engineers, the way that beavers are. And when you take them away, the ecosystem actually the functional, what this ecosystem looks like changes because of not having something so significant moving through it.
Was killing all the megafauna like a huge mistake on humanity's part, or?
They stopped existing before humans got to South America, so we didn't get the chance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We didn't do that to the
We
the
didn't
big
do that,
mouses. Okay.
This was
good.
a while back. And this is all based on one skull.
Yeah, and I read a little bit about these for my poem.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones with the foot-long teeth.
They have very big teeth.
and they have a bite that's like 3 times stronger than a tiger.
Yep.
So they were just like chomping trees, I think, or something.
It seems like they probably chomped grasses in rivers because their
Oh.
molars were actually really small, which
Uh-huh.
indicates they probably didn't chomp on things that were hard.
Why they have such a strong bite then?
Maybe for like biting predators.
Ah.
That's my jam. So I guess this comes down to Stefan. Do you have a better fact than me?
I don't know. But funny that you should mention ecosystem engineers.
Oh.
My fact is about beavers, but not related to their size, just about how their activities might be affecting their environment because they have pretty big effects on their ecosystems. As most people probably know, beavers make dams. And I thought they were like one dam animals, but apparently they make multiple dams so that they can create like a whole lake area for themselves to build a little house in. And there's tons of benefits to this, like reducing erosion, controlling floods. There's a lot of like filtration that's happening because of the dams, like even removing like pesticides and herbicides from the water. But the raised water level is also covering soil that was previously not underwater. There's carbon trapped in that soil and it can dissolve into the water and it can go several places, one of which is the atmosphere.
Uh-oh.
And as global temperatures have been increasing, beavers have expanded their habitats northward. And so some places they're building dams in areas where there's permafrost. And so it's raising the water level onto this permafrost, which thaws it out and releases the carbon there. But it's also complicated because the beaver ponds also have carbon storing effects. They're putting a bunch of biomass underwater, like the trees, and also in the soil that they're covering up. And that biomass is storing carbon. So basically, beaver activities have some carbon releasing effects, and they also have some carbon storing effects. There was a paper in mid-2018 that found or estimated that overall, beavers are releasing twice as much carbon as they're storing.
No. Well, they're doing better than us.
Yeah,
I would guess that we are releasing far more than
Uh-huh.
twice as much than we are.
But they're like in
storing.
second place in terms of animals. I think.
Yes, it's a complicated situation, and we don't like 100% know. Like it's all estimates, and humans are still way, way, way worse than beavers. But I just thought it was funny to think of like how we're not the only species that's like doing things that are affecting climate change in some way.
With a net increased carbon.
Yeah, building things and fucking everything up. Is there anything else that would, like any other animal besides us and beavers, that make carbon happen?
Make it. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna let's discount everything that is controlled by us. So obviously cows do, but they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't for us.
Okay.
But I think you could probably say the same for a lot of ruminants that produce a lot of methane.
Mhm.
Probably, have a net positive effect on global warming. But it's gonna be so minuscule compared to one airplane flight.
Look, we got to blame everybody else first. That's the only way we can get around.
I mean,
to
I've
ourselves.
legitimately seen people who are like, there are volcanoes at the bottom of the ocean that also spew out a bunch of carbon dioxide. And I'm like, yeah, we can't do anything about those.
Plug it up.
Look up the volcanoes.
Yeah,
with
do
the
you
big
want
rock.
to do a deep sea expedition to stop volcanoes?
Yeah, it's giving me a big old cork.
It'll
I'll
go
fix
fine,
It.
I'm sure.
Termites, maybe?
Oh yeah, termites totally produce tons of methane.
Yeah,
Same
a lot
way,
of
like
methane.
digging in the ground or what?
No, they like the fermentation process.
Oh.
Them actually converting the wood, the cellulose, into digestible stuff is a
Weird.
microbial process that produces methane.
This EPA thing says estimates of the contribution to the global budget of methane from termites vary widely from negligible to 15%.
Wow.
Which on the high end, that's a lot
That is a
for
lot.
termites.
Huh.
I mean, there's a lot of termites.
There's a lot of
man.
termites.
Yeah.
But there are way more beetles, right? Beetles, they're the most.
There are the most species of beetles. I don't know if they're
Oh.
most individual beetles because there are so many individual termites and ants. I'm not actually clear. All I know is that there are 23 billion chickens on Earth right now. Too many.
Just finished counting them.
Too many dang chickens.
That's a lot of chickens.
Yeah, way too many chickens, you guys.
Oh, wait. Isn't a huge percentage of, is it mammal life or all life rodents?
A huge percentage of mammal species are rodents.
There are about 1,500 living rodent species out of 4,000-ish living mammals overall.
Whoa.
And then bats are like the other big contributor to the mammal species. There's like 2,000 species of bats or something. For now.
Someday we'll be number one.
That would be a bummer.
Yeah.
But then where would all the chickens be?
Well, there's chickens and humans. We're tied for first.
I think that if the chickens wanted to take us over, they apparently could.
You think so? Oh, there's more.
23 billion.
How many people are there?
7-ish? 7
Oh,
plus?
Yeah, you're right.
Chickens are small, though.
What's 23 divided by 7?
About 3?
I could kill 3 chickens.
There's tons of people.
We all got to do our part, guys.
But they're also like babies and old people. They can't take those
But some of those
chickens.
chickens are babies
But
and
Hank
old people.
Hank could also kill 6 chickens if he had
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, especially if some of them were babies and old chickens.
Take some extra for Oren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has his 3 chickens delivered to the doorstep. You have to murder them for him.
They're not delivered. They're coming at us.
Oh, there.
Yeah, they're attacking.
Okay, somebody has to get a Hank Buck taken away, and I think it's me.
Okay. I'm gonna give you my Hank Buck.
Well, I lost it immediately.
Okay.
I'm also going to give mine to Hank. I'm
Ah.
sorry. The global warming made me sad.
And now it's time for Ask the Science Couch, where we ask listener questions to our couch of finely honed scientific minds, by which we mean Sari. Patty asks, why aren't there more giant rodents? This is a great question. And I don't have a good answer for that.
Were there even a lot of prehistoric giant rodents?
Well, this big one in South America, which died out about 4 million years ago, is by far the biggest and is about twice as big as the next smallest. And then the one after that is the capybara.
So there just never have been super giant ones besides that, like those 2.
It seems like that, yes.
Okay.
There's a giant beaver that was in North America.
How big is a giant beaver?
Approximately 2 meters.
And weighed up to 125 kilograms, so almost 300 pounds.
Not that big compared to the other guy.
Animals kill other animals, and that's like the ultimate answer to the
Right.
question
Mm-hmm.
because of what are known as ecological niches or niches, however you want to pronounce that word. Just the way the food web is set up, there are a lot of small animals
Mhm.
that eat things like grasses and
Little bugs.
foraging
yeah.
kind of things. And then as you go up the food chain, there's less room for those animals because they need space, they need resources.
Mm-hmm.
And rodents are often on the lower end of the food chain. A lot of them eat grasses. A lot of them are those foraging, herbivorous kind of organisms. So in order to get really huge, they need to be, or would ideally be, the apex predator
Mhm.
in a situation.
But there are very big herbivores. Like the biggest animals are herbivores
Yeah.
on land. And interestingly, like there were a lot of giant ground sloths and like this big old rodent in South America. And what is interesting to me is like what makes horses and elephants better at being big old herbivores than rodents.
I feel like part of it is luck and chance in the way
Absolutely.
that these adaptations rolled out. So maybe whatever the elephant's ancestor was just happened not to be eaten enough as the babies got bigger and bigger over evolutionary time. And so then they filled this role within the ecosystem. But I don't know, even capybaras are eaten by bigger things. They're jaguars. Humans hunt them and kill them.
Where do beavers fit into the food chain?
Did they get big because they learned how to build a house?
I will guess and like preface it with the fact that it's a guess. A lot of the big rodents seem to be water based.
Sure, yeah.
So like capybaras, beavers, nutrias,
Mhm.
they all filled, I don't know, this like aquatic mammal thing
Uh-huh.
is kind of a weird space to occupy because not all mammals are comfortable in the water, can survive in there, can build a shelter, can find food in that ecosystem. And so it's possible that over time, like they just got healthier, they got bigger, and then their babies were healthier and could grow bigger.
If you have everything being taken care of for you, there's an arrow towards getting bigger because it lets you compete more effectively for resources
right.
amongst, like if you're competing with other members of your species, it often does help to get bigger.
There's a really good example of that. It's not a giant rodent, but it's rodents that are giant relative to their size or like the normal size. On Gough Island house mice are like 150% their normal size.
So like there's an arrow.
There's
Like
an arrow.
Something pushed them to get bigger.
Yes. And it's because I think there aren't that many humans on the island. They were allowed to run rampant and they started eating Atlantic petrel chicks. So they started eating bird
no.
chicks. And in order to compete with that, I think we're like not entirely sure why, but they're about 10 inches or 27 centimeters big. And the chicks are still bigger than them, but they just grew to
Right.
get big enough to start like attacking these baby birds and eating
no.
them.
Yeah.
And now, according to this paper, which is buck wild to me, of the 1.6 million petrel chicks born each year, an estimated 1.25 million of them are eaten by mice. By these like giant tiny mice.
You guys, stop it. I know where this is going. I've heard this story before.
They're just like us too.
And so that's an example of something that is small, like a house mouse that just ended up on an island, bred really fast, found a food source,
Right.
didn't have
Yeah.
anything really eating it, and then bleh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to drive themselves to extinction. No problem. They're going to have to start getting small real fast. All right. So if you want to ask the Science Couch a question, you can tweet us your question using the hashtag AskSciShow. Thank you to everybody who did that, including Color Me Trash 2 and Cat Loving London. Our final Hank Buck scores. Sari, you have 1. I have 1 because I went on a dumb tangent and I could have been tied for the win. Stefan, you have 1, and Sam is our winner.
You're a bunch of losers.
That's why you encourage the tangent.
No.
Yeah,
No,
totally.
I won completely naturally.
It doesn't matter how you win, Sam. It matters that you do. If you like this show and you want, it's America, and you want to help us out, it's really easy to do that. First, you can leave us a review wherever you listen, like Amber Loves Pods did. Amber, she loves podcasts, including ours. It's very helpful, and it helps us know what you like about the show. You can also tweet out your favorite moment from this episode, which we will look at and be like, oh, I liked that too. And finally, if you want to show your love for tangents, you could just tell people about us. Thank you for listening to this show. I have been Hank Green.
I've been Sari Riley.
I've been Stefan Jin.
And I've been Sam Schultz.
SciShow Tangents is a co-production of Complexly and WNYC Studios. It's produced by all of us and Caitlin Hoffmeister. Our art is by Hiroko Matsushima, and our sound design is by Joseph Tuna Medish. Our social media organizer is Victoria Bongiorno, and we couldn't do any of this without our patrons on Patreon. Thank you, and remember, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be lighted. But one more thing. Capybara have anal pouches, which are described in males as dry and bristly.
What's it do?
It is a scent receptacle. There is a great picture on the internet of a capybara that has inserted a stick into its
What?
scent pouch.
No.
Just like gotten right up into the capybara's pouch.
It's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to make this smell real nice.
Yeah, and it's how they communicate, and they all have different scent smells, and it's not unusual, of course, but it does feel a little bit grody. And they really like to put their nose scent glands on each other's anal pouches and mix the smells together.